to MandoBug Crafts, episode 57. Hey, whoa, it's not, it's episode 58. What's up? I'm MandoBug. You can call me Amanda if you want. I'd like to say thank you for checking me out for the first time, new viewers, and of course thank you for returning viewers? I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to call you returning viewers. Whatever. Friends. Really, right? I'd like to start this show out with a thank you to Kim of the Simply Homespun Yarn blog. Her name is Simply Homespun on Ravelry, and simplyhomespunyarn.blogspot.com is where you can find her blog, and she so generously blogged about me. It's super sweet. Thank you so much, Kim. Like, I always blush when I read things like that, but I really do. And she wrote a nice article about what she's been up to crafting wise, and how my podcast has inspired her to start working on things for herself and her family. It must be all my selfish knitting. I really am a selfish knitter, but I encourage myself to inspire you guys to become more selfish knitters, if that's a thing. But she has an Etsy store called Simply Homespun Yarn, and it seems like on there she sells hand-spun yarn, regular and art yarn, as well as crafting supplies like wheels and looms and some other things for sale as well. And so, you know, she talked about how she mostly spends her time doing stuff for her shop, and now she's pulled out some stuff for herself, which is awesome. So thank you, Kim, so much for linking to my blog on your blog. So let's start the show out with something I've learned. This has been quite an interesting thing for me. I have been working on the Exploration Station by Stephen West, and I got to the brioche. So I've been brioching, and it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. And, you know, I've heard that it's really not that hard, but it's really not. So why don't I show you my progress on this shawl. I'm knitting the shawl out of Tosh Merino Light in 4 different colors. Raspberry Cordial, Stargazing, Dahlia, however you say that, and Turn. And this is all tangled. Trying to get it all figured out. This shawl has so many color changes in it that you should weave in your ends as you go, because it can get a little overwhelming when you see them all hanging out, and that's what I've been doing. So no, there are a bunch of ends. I have just woven them in already. So there is a bunch of short rows that give you these awesome stripes of color, and now I'm on to the brioche section. And so, well, this is the right side, so hanging upside down, so you can see. On the right side, you get those nice long blue stitches that kind of rib up, and then on the wrong side, it's reverse. So the pinky purpley color is the nice long blues, or nice long ribs. So brioche knitting, I'm going to attempt to describe it without making it sounding like, without it being confusing. But since I'm tripping over my words already and I haven't even started trying to describe it, we'll see how this goes. But you may be able to see on my working row here, the cable is almost the same color as the Dahlia, so maybe not. But you knit with 2 colors at once, but it's not like color work, because you knit a row with 1 color, and then you go back to the beginning. You don't turn, you go back to the beginning, and then you knit the same row with a 2nd color. And you do that, you work each direction twice. So the first time I went through with my blue, knitting the brioche pattern, and then instead of turning, I went back to the beginning and knit with the pink purple. And then after you've done the both colors 1 row, you turn and then do both colors a 2nd row, but only doing 1 color at a time. And that's what makes it easy. The really cool thing about this brioche pattern is the way that Stephen West describes it in his tutorial videos on YouTube for this shawl. So if you do purchase the shawl and need video instruction, that's available on his YouTube channel, which I used. And I'll admit, without the videos, I would be lost. I'm sure he did a great job writing it out. I didn't even try to do it based off the written instructions. It looked intimidating, so I just went straight to the link to the YouTube video and followed along with him as he knit his shawl. So essentially, per row, you're not doing anything special. It's almost like you're just knitting, slipping one yarn over, knitting, slipping one yarn over. Or instead of the knit, it would be a purl, depending on which row and which color you were working with. So there's no special new stitches that you're doing. It's really just the combination of how you do it and the fact that you're knitting a row twice with two different colors. And you can see my brioche is really open and airy, and I didn't think it was going to be. I've never seen brioche in person, and knowing that you were going to be knitting with you're knitting each row twice, I thought it was going to be super thick, like double knitting, but it's not, because you don't knit the same stitches when you go through. The first time with your first color, you slip stitches and knit. You slip one and knit one. When you go back through with the second color, you knit the one that you slipped and you slip the one that you knit. So you don't have a double thick fabric. I know it may sound really confusing, but when you're doing it, it's not. That's just a lack of my ability to describe the technique. But I mean, all this to say, don't be afraid of it. Don't. It's not hard, especially if you got a good video tutorial. And after the first two rows, I didn't even have to look at the pattern anymore. It's that simple. So, and it makes this awesome, cool, textured, multicolored fabric. And it's not like, even though this is technically color work, it's not the traditional sense of like Fair Isle color work. So I really have been enjoying this. And I don't think I mentioned, but I'm knitting these on US size 6 4.0 millimeter needles. So yeah, I've really been enjoying that brioche stitch, and now I'm excited to explore other patterns that have it in there, because it is really gorgeous and I'm not afraid anymore. Not so much that I was afraid, but a little apprehensive, because like I like to learn new things, but for some reason I had this idea that brioche was really difficult, and I don't know where that came from. So moving on to works in progress. I have been still ticking away, and I'm looking for it. Oh, here it is. Ticking away at my beekeeper's tank. So this is a long haul project, really. It has to be, because it's the marathon stockinette knitting that I've been talking about. So let's see if I can show you with my marker in the front. This is where I was last time I recorded with the little kitty marker, and I'm up here now. So this is my total progress. So I still have another like 5 or 6 inches to go. I did the math on how many rows I was getting out of a skein, and I won't be at the desired length until after I've finished knitting this cake into the stockinette and around. So I still have a long ways to go before I even get to the patterning that's across the bust of the tank top. But looking at the pattern, once I get the stockinette done, I get to split for the front and the back, and I think the pattern will really start to zoom by at that point, even though it has the cables. So I'm knitting this out of Shibui Knits 100% linen in the Cascade colorway on US, oh, I don't think these ones say. I believe it's on US size 3, but because they don't say, that means I don't know what the millimeter is. 3.5? Is that a good guess? So yeah, I've really, like I said, I've been working on this while I pump at work and in the car. So it's super simple stockinette knitting. And then I started a sweater! Yay! So I was a total big girl about this, and you might have seen it on my Instagram. I made an actual swatch. So I, like, I've never made a real full-size swatch before, so looking back at it, I probably would have put less garter stitches on the edges. I don't think I needed that many, but whatever. But how I ended up doing it, because I'm not really sure the recommended way, but I took the suggested needle size for the gauge, and I cast on the suggested number of stitches for 4 inches. I don't remember off the top of my head, but maybe it was like 28 or so. So, and then I cast on extra stitches for the garter, beginning and the end. So I did, I think I did 5 garter stitches, and then the 28 stockinette for my 4 inches, and then 5 more garter stitches. And so I knit that, hoping that the entire stockinette portion would be 4 inches, and it was. So, that's probably not how you're supposed to do it, but that's how I did it, and so I'm counting it as a swatch. I met gauge right away, so I was able to use the suggested needle size with this yarn, and so yeah, I swatched and then I cast on. So this yarn, you may be wondering, is crazy. It is Blue Moon Fiber Arts Targhee worsted, and it's crazy in multiple ways. Crazy because you get an 8-ounce skein. So, oh my god, that's crazy. I've never had a skein of yarn this huge in my life. What? So, it's 616 yards, and actually no, it's 8.8 ounces. So it's almost 9 ounces. It's 250 grams of wool. This is crazy. So, and I got it in the deep unrelenting gray colorway. So to knit this sweater, which I haven't even told you what it is yet, I ordered 3 giant skeins because 2 was going to be just under what I needed. So 3, I'm going to have a bunch of leftovers. Even though I do plan to lengthen the sweater, I still will have a bunch of leftovers. So maybe some matching accessories, maybe gift knitting, I don't know. But this yarn, before I talk about the sweater, I really like this yarn. So I've spun Targhee before in the past. It's a little bit more of a rustic wool, but this yarn is very soft for the Targhee that I've touched and spun and worked with in the past. And Targhee is because it's a little more rustic, I don't want to use the word coarse, but it's a fuller fiber. So it's fatter around. I guess technically that's what you're looking at, because when you measure fiber in microns, right, you're measuring the diameter. The skinnier the fiber, the softer the fiber, the finer, you know what I mean? That's kind of how it's measured. So technically, you know, it is fatter, for lack of a better way to describe that. But because of its fatness, it is like very squishy. Like, you know, you describe yarn as squishy, but there's varying levels of squish, and there's really no way to measure that, right? But this yarn, on my scale of squish, is very squish, and because of that, even though this is just 100%, I'll try to grab it out of the cake, because this is 100% Targhee, there is no other fiber to give it a different characteristic. So you'll see this Targhee, I don't know if I can get to focus, has stretch. Like, you don't normally get this kind of stretch out of wool, especially like I'm used to like BFL. You don't get this kind of, or at least I haven't had experience getting this kind of a stretch out of like a BFL or even a merino, unless it's been blended with something. But yes, it's got stretch to it. So it's stretchy and springy, and it's just not as soft as merino. But I really like the wool. So enough about the yarn, the sweater. So let me get my progress out. I decided to knit Dark and Stormy by Thea Coleman, who's the designer behind Baby Cocktails. And I have a measuring tape in here that's like caught. I'm alternating skeins as I knit, so I like, it's really easy to get all tangled up. So it's so funny because my ball winder has it can't wind past a certain size because it like lays on top of itself, and it'll get to a certain point where it can't go back anymore. So I wound the skeins up, but they only ended up this big, and then I had this much left over from each one that I couldn't wind on to my ball winder. So I got skeins all over the place. But anyways, this is a paid for pattern, top down, and so I've been so addicted to it that I've already split for the sleeves. I'm knitting this in the 34-inch bust size. Right now, and that's the upper bust measurement. Right now when I measured, I was on like a 34 and a half, almost 35, but the sweater has 3 inches of positive ease knit into it, so I'm hoping I don't regret that decision. I don't want it to be super tight, but I also didn't want to go up to 36 inches and then regret having it be too big. So, yeah, so I'm knitting in the 34-inch size, alternating skeins, and it has this really cool detail in the front, which is kind of folding up on itself, which is fine. It's a zigzag pattern, because I will pick up and knit a button band later. But it's got that on each sides of the front, and then this is the gorgeous cable in the back. And this is the whole reason I wanted to knit this sweater, is because I really, really love this cable. And the sample is knit out of a similar colored gray. It's a little less variegated, and I really liked that color. So I chose something similar, although it is more variegated. I'm a little afraid that the cables, they're not standing out as much as I'd like, but I still like it enough to keep knitting it. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about the sweater, since this is my first time showing it to you guys. I'm knitting it on US size 7, 4.5 millimeters. Oh, I wanted to mention the pattern. Since it is a paid for pattern, I did want to say that it is very well written in a way that before you start each section, it kind of tells you what you're going to be doing. So it'll be like, this is the shaping for the top, and this is how you can adjust what I've written to fit you better. Like, putting these increases here will make this part of your sweater bigger. So if you'd like a bigger front, or wider arms, or a bigger back, put your increases here, or keep increasing after this section. Or if you want this part a little bit longer, add a couple more rows of stockinette or whatever. So I really enjoyed learning about the construction, because I have done some top-down sweaters in like child baby sizes, but I have never made one in adult size, and you're putting a lot more time and effort into it, and you know, you're not going to grow out of it as quickly as a child will, so the fitting is more important. So I've really been enjoying the way that this pattern has been written. Highly recommend it for even beginning knitters, or even beginning knitters or beginning sweater knitters, because it has what you need to know in order to make it. It doesn't leave you wondering. So yeah. And then the other project I've been working on is some spinning. So I purchased some more fiber from Penguin Soup, and hold on a second, I'm gonna go check on Emily. Okay, had to go get Emmy. I think she just wanted mommy, which is fine. I also think she's teething. She's been going through some pretty crazy crying bouts where it doesn't seem like there's really anything wrong with her other than she might just be in a little bit of pain. And I can feel a little tooth bump on her bottom left, so I think she will be cutting a tooth soon if she is not already in the progress of doing so. So anyways, I think I was telling you guys that I ordered fiber from Penguin Soup. I loved her BFL fiber so much, and she did this new thing where she dyed a collection called the Sakura collection, if that's how you pronounce it. I'm not really sure. But I totally grabbed the colorway on her fiber. So this is 100% superwash merino, and this is half of the braid. So when I saw it on her website, I was like, okay, when I spin that, I'm gonna do a traditional 3-ply, because I haven't done a traditional 3-ply in so long. But then I received it, and I opened it up, and here, I'll open this up for you, and I saw that it wasn't dyed the way that I thought it was. I thought it was like speckled, but it's not. It is totally striping. And so then I decided I'm not going to traditionally 3-ply that. And the cool thing was the way that she dyed it, you could pretty much fold the braid in half and the stripes matched up. So I split the braid in half. Is that lengthwise? Yeah. Maybe when I say lengthwise in the past, I meant widthwise. Now I'm kind of confused about the difference between, now I'm kind of confused about what splitting yarn lengthwise is. Is this splitting yarn in half lengthwise if I tore this in half down the middle? Or if you take the whole thing of roving and then you go to the middle and you split it in half? What's that called? I don't know now. I'm kind of confused. You okay, babies? But anyways, I took the whole thing and I split it right in half because it matched. So I've started spinning the first half, and this is the bobbin. I don't know if I got it close enough to focus. It looks like it's focused. I just don't want to bang Amy's head into the table. But I'm spinning it up to be a 3-ply, chain-plied, sport weight yarn, just like I did with her other yarn, because I really liked the sport weight yarn I spun up. And I'm thinking I'm going to use it in some sort of stripy top for Emily. I don't think it will be enough for a top on its own, so I may have to pair it with like a white, maybe stripe the white in with the natural striping of this color. We'll see. But I do really like this hot pink that's in there. I mean, it's just super concentrated and gorgeous. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. So moving on to finished objects, I only have one. Oh, actually, you know what? Backtrack. I have one more work in progress, which I almost skipped because it's technically not in progress, because this is I'm not going to use this, I don't think. I decided to join in on the scrap yarn blanket extravaganza. And my reason for doing this is because it is so popular right now. A lot of people are doing mini skein swaps where you can swap out your mini skeins for some of theirs. And I really like this concept because you get to try out different yarn bases without actually having to purchase a whole skein. And actually, you don't have to purchase anything. You give a little bit away of your scraps, and hopefully you're getting back yarn you've never even touched before. And that's my hopes of doing this, because there's really no point doing a mini skein swap if you don't have anything to do with the mini skeins. And since this seems to be a pretty popular blanket to do, that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. And so I did like a swatch for my first square. This is Lammy Toes 100% BFL in the Midori colorway that I knit Josh socks out of. And I knit this up on DPNs. I think it was US size 2 or 2.5. And it's too tight. I didn't like it. And so I ordered size 3 DPNs. Yeah, you don't like it either, huh? You want to see it? Is it going to go in the mouth? No, not right now. So, yeah, I ordered size 3 because this is just too tight of a gauge for me. I'm not really a fan of it. So I'm going to get the 3s and then try it again and see if I like it, and then I'll go from there. But I was using a free pattern for this on Ravelry. Yeah, and I'll link to that. So, so now on to finished objects. So I only have one, and it's some spinning that I was working on a couple weeks ago. And so this is fiber from Edgewood Garden Studios in the candy corn colorway. It's 100% Shetland. This is my first time spinning Shetland, and I did enjoy it. It kind of reminded me of Falkland, but not as soft. Goobies, you just talking it up, huh? Did you want to stand up? Is that all you wanted, was to stand? Did you want to say hi? Yeah? She's looking at all my podcasting stuff on the table. Yeah. Okay. See if we can sit down now. Okay, so this candy corn yarn, I spun it as a single and chain plied it so it would be stripy. You are just not into this, are you? Alright, hold on a second, guys. Okay, she's back out with Daddy now, so I think she wanted to be walked around, which I'm all about, just not while I'm podcasting. You know, it's funny, having a child changes the whole dynamic of your life, and I guess it would be really silly of me to expect that it doesn't change the dynamic of the podcast. I was talking about the candy corn yarn. I spun it as a single, and then chain plied it to keep the color stripes. It generally, I believe, it's striped from yellow to orange to yellow to brown. I think that's why there's a good amount of yellow in it. The brown looks predominant, but I think that's only because it's dark. It's not mostly brown. There's just a little bit of brown in it. And this was actually a Christmas present from my mother-in-law. This dyer is a local dyer to her. They're actually from the same city. And, you know, that I say that, and it's probably sounds funny because you think of like Chicago. It's a giant city. Puyallup, Washington is not a very big city. So, so to find an indie dyer in your city is rare in a smaller town. Not that Puyallup's that small, just if you compared it to Chicago. Anyways, it's a whole other thing. It was a Christmas present, and it was wrapped, and I put it under the tree, and I didn't think twice about it. Well, one day when I came home from work, I found the package had been opened and like clawed to death by Chester, and I was pretty upset. And so I managed to get the whole leftovers of the roving onto the bobbin, thinking that, wow, I almost lost a whole ounce, because I've never been able to pack more than 3 ounces on my Ashford Traveler bobbins. And sure enough, when I pulled this off and weighed it, it was 3.8 ounces. I only lost 2.2 ounces, which is less than I thought I lost, and I fit this all on one bobbin. I am super surprised. Like, I had to pack it on there, but now I'm like, can I pack 4 ounces on there? I don't know. I'm thinking about trying it with my next spin. I've already split my penguin soup up into 2 ounces, but I have on one of my bobbins, I've started a merino top from Knitty & Color that's a full gradient. The whole braid is a full gradient. And now I'm thinking, like, maybe I can cram that all onto one bobbin. I think I'm going to try that. So, but yeah, I'm super happy. It turned out to be 3.8 ounces, 175 yards, about a worsted weight. And surprisingly, this fiber is the first time I ever pulled because I like a high twist to my yarn. It's the first time I pulled off my yarn and it didn't like crazy kink up on itself. It was actually pretty balanced. So maybe with my penguin soup yarn, I will show it to you guys when it's done before I wash it, so you see how crazy kinked my yarn gets, because it's like super high energy from the high ply that I put into it. But after the wash, it evens itself out and it's not so bad. So, but yeah. Moving on to check it out. So for check it out, I wanted to talk about a group that I joined not too long ago. They are a group on Ravelry called the OddDucks Swaps on Ravelry. I believe that's right? Double check. The OddDucks Swaps of Ravelry. And I wanted to bring it up because I had been asking about swaps not too long ago, and this group is for swaps, pretty much. That's all that they do. And I mean, there are some chatter threads, I believe, but they have sign-ups for, they have like rolling swaps. I think there's a new sign-up every month for a new swap, but there of course are rules, especially if you're a new to them swapper. You're not allowed to do a certain number at a time. I don't know. I don't think you're allowed to do more than one until you've finished one, and then there's progressive rules past that. I'm not really sure. But I joined one of their swaps. So I joined their cryptozoology swap, which is probably cryptozoology. I have a friend who is a zoologist, and they talk about how people always say zoologist, but it's zoologist. But so yeah, it's probably cryptozoology, but I'm just going to say cryptozoology because that's what I'm used to saying. Sorry. But, so cryptozoology deals with the undiscovered, they call them cryptids, but I mean, I guess you could say animal, but they call them cryptids, undiscovered species. So you're talking about like Nessie, you know, the Loch Ness Monster, and Bigfoot, Sasquatch, you know, they're kind of the same thing. The Yeti, the snow version, the Kraken, things of that nature, and it can include a broader sense of the word. So, I mean, I think even some places throw in like vampires and werewolves and things like that. So, I have started crafting for my swap partner, and it's secret, so they don't know who they are, and I highly doubt that they watch the podcast, because like it works in like a upside down triangle, right? And there's few people, or maybe it's the other way around, but there's like few people that watch podcasts, and then there's few people that watch my, like, of those podcasters, or podcast watchers, only a few people watch me, so like the percent chance is so low that I'm pretty sure that my swap partner does not watch my podcast. But the person that has me as their swap partner, they might be watching to be stalking me, but that has nothing to do with what I'm making my partner. So all that to say, I've started making them a bag. So I mean, if you've never done a secret swap before, there's a lot of questionnaires that you have to fill out. So there's the theme, which is cryptozoology, and then there's like a whole questionnaire that asks about things that you like and things that you don't like, and like where you have an internet presence, and like things along those lines. And then the swap partners, when they get assigned you, they read all your questionnaires and start pretty much internet stalking you to put together a nice surprise package for you. So yeah, so I started making this tote for my swap partner. I've made this tote before. These are quilted totes, but I'm using the generic size from the tote. I'm not actually quilting anything. I just really like the size of my tote, which is what I've got my sweater in. It's a really nice sized tote. It's got a flat bottom and handles. It doesn't close, but it's so big that it doesn't really need to, and it has pockets on the inside. So I'm using the basic shape of this McCall's, what is that? I'm not going to read that number backwards, so. So I went and decided to go with the Kraken based on stalking my swap partner. And so I wanted like nautical themed fabric. So for the lining, I picked out, it's all like folded up together, I'm trying to get it apart. I picked out this awesome like wavy looking pattern, and this white is what the the pocket is going to be white. So, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to sew it down in blue thread, so it's got some highlight to it, so it's not super plain. But yeah, so this is the inside, and then the outside I decided to go with a plain navy blue and embroider an octopus on it. So here is my progress so far. I got the pattern from Urban Threads, and they specialize in modern designed embroidery patterns for embroidery machines, but they also have hand embroidery patterns available for $1. And so I picked this guy up. And so this has been interesting because I didn't think about it when I was brainstorming what kind of a tote I wanted to make. I was like, oh, well, navy blue on the outside, because like based on the colors that my swap partner likes, I was like, okay, well, I'll do navy blue on the outside, and then I'll just stitch the whole design in white. Well, I didn't think that you can't, I normally transfer patterns, I don't have like a light box or anything. I just transfer onto like a white fabric or a light colored fabric, and then just trace over the top of it. And so I was like, I can't just trace onto the navy blue fabric. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get white fabric, trace onto that, use it as a backing, because it's really great if you use at least 2 pieces of fabric when you embroider something on for thickness and to hide your ends. And so that's what I did. I traced the pattern onto a white fabric. So here you can see the whole fabric. And I traced it in reverse so that it would show up the correct direction on the right side. Now, the one thing that is tricky to this, because this is the side with the pattern on it, this is the side that I look at when I'm stitching, but it's also my back side. So it's interesting to be stitching on the top of a wrong side. I have caught myself a couple times trying to follow the design on this side and then looking over here and being like, oh wait, that's not where I was supposed to go. So it is slower this way, flipping back and forth, trying to figure out, is this looking the way that I want it to? But at the same time, I think I'm going to get an awesome effect with this white embroidered octopus on this navy blue fabric. I think it's going to be a great accent piece to the bag, and I really hope my swap partner loves it. So, yeah, so that's my check it out this week. I believe, now of course the swap that I'm in is closed. There's a certain sign-up period, and then you get assigned swap partners, and it's closed for crafting. But they have 2 sign-ups still open right now. I think one's a Doctor Who swap, and the other one is like a places you'd love to travel to swap. I mean, those are the themes. So, but the cool thing is it's like it's accepting of all crafts, and that's why I'm able to do the embroidery and the sewing, and there will also be knitting and stuff that I do, but it doesn't have to just be knitting or crochet. It's any crafty thing that you enjoy doing, as well as some other small non-crafty things that you can purchase to throw in there as well. So, moving on to current events, I am hosting a double dip cow where you can pretty much enter any project that you've entered into a cow between March 1st and May 31st. You enter it into the No Chatter thread, and there's unlimited entries, but you can only win once if your name is drawn. So far I have 2 skeins of yarn available, which I still need to photograph and get on the group. I should do that while I upload this episode. And I think we're nearing 100 entries. Maybe we're in the 60s or 70s. I haven't checked it lately, but I think I'm gonna make a project bag to throw in as well. So just to keep a good prize to participant ratio. Yeah. Oh, and then for my other current event, I am part of the Penguin Soup Firefly Club, Yarn Club. It's a 3-month-long yarn club, and the first yarn came in. So if you are participating in the Penguin Soup Firefly Yarn Club and you have not received your yarn yet, skip ahead a little bit so you aren't spoiled if you don't want to be. But the yarn came in and ooh, it's pretty. So this is Shellfolia, and it's based off of Kaylee's kimono-looking dress that she wears in the first episode when she is trying to convince people, trying to get passengers on to the Firefly. So it's this gorgeous turquoise and what would you, like a sage green with gray in between. And actually, I've already opened this up once, so it won't hurt to do it again to see the way that it was dyed, because I absolutely love it. And I'll be able to show you the green. It has a little bit of speckling in it, which I don't even know how she did this, because it's the most lightly colored speckling I've ever seen. It's so subtle, but that's what makes it gorgeous. So can you see how light those blue speckles are in that green? I love it. And like the speckling with the glitter, that's absolutely gorgeous. and then there's the gray and the turquoise. So it's a variegated yarn, but it's gonna be so pretty. Look at that turquoise. It's so concentrated and gorgeous. And the, like I said, the speckled gray. Oh, love this yarn. So I'm super happy. And if you guys remember, I really love Penguin Soup's yarn and fiber, and I was part of the Nightmare Before Christmas Club, and I went ahead and joined the Firefly Club as well, never even having seen Firefly. Well, before I signed up for the club, but before the first shipment went out, I went and watched all of Firefly with my husband on Netflix, and then of course afterwards we had to go watch Serenity, the movie, and we really enjoyed it, and so it's been a lot of fun. It's even more fun receiving this gorgeous yarn and understanding the reference that it comes from. And the goodie to come with it was this Mother's Milk chapstick, which is totally Jane inspired. And I don't remember the name of the place that he's from, but I know it's just a giant mud swamp. And I think they make mud. I think that's their job, is making mud. Now, all of you Firefly fans are probably like, oh my goodness, it's called this, or I've only seen the episodes once and I'm super new to it, so that's the best that I can recollect what I saw. But so yeah, I'm super excited for the next 2 yarns to come in and the other goodies in the bag, of course. So moving on to upcoming events, I actually have a mystery knit-along that I'm going to be joining in, and I'm super excited. So Boo Knits, love Boo Knits. Oh my god, her gothic looking lace shawls, I absolutely love them. So that's what I'm wearing now, is a Boo Knit shawl. This is Boo Knit's Rain Shine that I knit out of hand spun and put some gorgeous beads in. And I love, 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 love this shawl. I love, love, love Boo Knit's patterns. So, she seems to, don't quote me, but it seems like when she releases new shawls, she always does them as a mystery knit-along. And so I haven't participated in the last few, but I saw a new one coming out, and I had recently purchased some lace yarn. So I was like, you know what? Yep. It's about time. So her mystery knit-along starts... Oh, I thought my camera wasn't recording for a second. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, so the knit-along starts on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. She talks about how she did that on purpose. But the shawl pattern is called Be With You, and it is a fingering. She knit hers up in fingering weight, but she said you could use fingering weight or lace weight, so I'm going to use lace weight. And it's 2-colored, and she used a regular yarn for one, and then one of like those fuzzier yarns for a second to have kind of like a texture between the 2 colors as well. But she also said you can knit it in 1 color, which is what I'm going to do. So it's going to be nothing like her original shawl, but it's still going to be gorgeous because of the, I mean, if you've seen Boo Knit shawls, you'll see what I'm talking about. She has some other multicolored shawls that would be lovely in a single color, so I'm not worried. This yarn I got from Eat Sleep Knit was being discontinued, and look at that being washed out. It is hot pink. Hot, hot pink. So this is Pagewood Farm, Willow Creek in neon pink. And it's 8 ounces, 1,100 yards, and I plan to use as much as I can in the Boo Knits knit along. Because most of her shawl patterns are written, they're usually, what do you call it? Like, is it top down? Where you start in the middle and you increase out. They're not bottom up most of the time, and I'm assuming, even though this is a mystery knit along, I'm assuming it's the same way. And therefore there are instructions on how to keep going if you want to. You just keep repeating those however many rows until you want to bind off. And so that's what I plan on doing with this, and that means it's going to be the hugest giant neon pink shawl ever. So, and of course she always has bead options for her shawls too, so I picked up some beads from Joann's, and So they really match the yarn, and I was hoping for more of like a magenta, like a bright magenta color, but I didn't see any. But they only had these 2 tubes. So if I run out of these colors while I'm working on the shawl, I'm gonna continue on and I'm gonna find the magenta beads and continue on in magenta. So there might be like, you know, I don't know. Maybe what I'll do if I start to notice that I'm running out, I'll like gradually mix them together and I'll be like a gradient of beads from pink to magenta. But again, that's if I need more, which if I'm going to use this whole skein, then yeah, I'll need more than this. So yeah, that's upcoming. And then also Maryland Sheep and Wool. So May 4th I should still be in DC, so I probably won't cast that on time because I'm just imagining myself in vacation mode with my husband and Emily, and I don't see myself casting on a lace shawl in vacation mode. So, but yeah, we finally booked our hotels for Maryland Sheep and Wool, and so we are going down on the 1st or the 2nd, I don't remember. Better get that squared away. And we will be staying, we'll be going to the festival on either the 2nd or the 3rd. I'm pretty sure we're only going to go for 1 day, and yes, we are all going together, so it will be me, my husband, and Emily, and I plan to put her in the carrier or hold her while we go through, because I really don't want to deal with the stroller, because I've never been there before, so I'm not really sure of the crowded situation or the paved situation, so we're just going to plan on carrying her. But I'm super excited to go. I know there's a podcaster meetup, but I'm not planning on going to that, just because I'm pretty sure I'm going to only be there 1 day, and I don't know if it's going to be Saturday or Sunday yet, and I probably am going to be spending most of my time trying to see as much of it as I can, and I really don't want to spend a lot of time just hanging around chit-chatting, since I won't be back at Maryland and Sheep and Wool probably for a very long time, if not ever again. So, but that being said, if you see me around, do please come say hi, and if I see other podcasters that I watch, I will definitely be saying hi. So yeah, don't feel like you can't approach me if you see me, because that's not the case. I'm assuming that this podcaster meetup would probably take a lot of time out of my day, and I really want to have as much time as I can to, like I said, see as much of the festival as possible. And plus, I really don't want to have like Josh and Emily waiting around on me. So, anyways, moving on to Let's Chat. So, I showed you guys 2 weeks ago in my last episode that I made that cute little dress for Emily for the Renaissance Festival. Well, we were not able to go. It, like, super downpoured, and so we decided that that would not be a good idea. The fact that it doesn't rain here much in Georgia means that the fair doesn't really have covered area. We were there last year and it started to rain on us, and there were only a few places that a whole bunch of people huddled under, and it was pretty ridiculous. And so we decided if it rains, we're not going, because we don't want to deal with that with Emily. So we decided not to go, but luckily the festival is like 8 weekends long, so after we get back from Maryland Sheep and Wool, we will be doing that. Oh, and I didn't mention, the primary focus of the Maryland Sheep and Wool trip for us is not the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. It's more the touristy side of seeing the capital. That's how I convinced Josh to go up with me, is because we haven't been to DC before, and we really want to go before we leave Georgia, and so that's like, we'll be spending 4 or 5 days in the DC area and just driving up to the Sheep and Wool Festival 1 day. So I'm really excited about that. That's next weekend, so and of course it means I get time off work and more time with Emily, so I really can't complain. Since I last recorded, I also was a part of a VKN with Kat of the Cat's Corner podcast, and my first time VKNing with Holly from the Swift Knits podcast, and that was a lot of fun. I was only able to join for about an hour because we had priorly told my mother-in-law that when Emily woke up we would Skype with her because her mom was visiting in town, and they don't live in, but well, I guess technically they do, in like an RV, and they drive around staying with family throughout the states. So since they were with Josh's mom, we decided to Skype with them when we could. So I had to leave a little early from the weekend, but it was a lot of fun chatting with the two ladies. Holly and Kat both have children about the same age, and then me and Kat have daughters the same age, so it was a lot of talking about children, but it was still nice to be able to talk with them in person. So, well, I guess as in person as you can be over the computer. Live. But, and then also in my downtime at work, I've been reading different parenting books. So this is the time for you to super judge me, a first-time parent reading parenting books. I'm sure some of you have been there before, if you're not there now. I just kind of want to see some of the suggestions that are out there, and so I've been skimming through a bunch of different books that are free and available to me online. And I ran into one and I decided to purchase it, and I've really been enjoying it. It's called Brain Rules by John Medina, I believe. And it's Brain Rules, How to Raise a Smart and Happy Baby from 0 to 5. And I really enjoyed this book because it was, a lot of the parenting books are based on different things, right? So some are based on faith, some are based on like expertise in the field, and this one is based on science. So a lot of the suggestions come from studies that have been done, like psychological studies, as well as like biological studies. So it was really cool because the book is split up into two. There's the smart baby and the happy baby, and in each sections it's got the seed and the soil. So it talks about like biologically what do we know is fixed, and then how can you nurture your child to help them be the best that they can be. The smart baby was interesting, but I was really concerned with the happy baby part. You know, of course, as a parent, what do you want more than to help your child achieve happiness? So that's kind of where I'm at with the book, and I really enjoyed reading it. So I think that's everything I got for you guys. So next time I see you will be after Maryland Sheep, and that's so exciting. But yeah, I'm going to continue recording every 2 weeks because it works best for me and the family. So, yeah, until next time, guys, happy crafting. Bye!